After 5 years of saving, I bought my own restaurant. My ex-best friend sneered, "You? Running a business? It'll be bankrupt in a month." She even posted a video mocking me online. The grand opening was a disaster, and I thought she was right. But a few days later, a celebrity walked in and said, "This is the best meal I've had in years." She seriously said that? She laughed. Right to my face. Said I'd be bankrupt in a month. And now she's texting you? After all that? Yeah. Wants to collaborate now that the place is finally doing well. You gonna let her back in? I don't know. That's why I'm here. I guess. I want someone to tell me if I'm being petty, or just protecting my peace. I never thought I'd be the kind of person posting here, but after everything that's happened over the past year, I guess I'm craving some outside perspective from people who don't know me, people who might be honest in a way my friends can't be. I'm 29 now, and for the last 5 years, I've been quietly saving every cent I could while working in the restaurant industry. Not glamorous jobs either. I've been a dishwasher, line cook, prep cook, server, assistant manager, caterer, even did food truck shifts. If it involved food and a paycheck, I took it. I lived in a studio apartment in Norwood, just outside downtown Cincinnati, barely big enough to stretch in. But I was focused. Ever since I was a teenager, I wanted to open my own place. My parents weren't thrilled when I told them. My mom wanted me to be a nurse. My dad wanted me to work at the auto plant. I think they thought I'd get over it, like it was just a phase. But it never left me. I'd stay up at night with notebooks full of menu ideas, flavor pairings, sketches of what the inside would look like, names I liked. I'd look up lease prices for tiny retail spots and fantasize about serving regulars who came in just for my homemade lemon pie. Fast forward to last year, I finally had enough saved to put a down payment on a small, rundown restaurant space in Over the Rhine. It was nothing fancy. The kind of place people walk by without even noticing. The kind of spot with old booths that had torn vinyl and fluorescent lights that made everything look yellow. But I didn't care. It was mine. Around this time, I reconnected with my old friend Mira. Mira and I were inseparable in high school. We used to walk to each other's houses after school, talk for hours about boys, music, plans for the future. But we drifted apart after college. She moved to Chicago, started working in PR, and began curating her life online. Everything was filtered, aesthetic, captioned with motivational quotes or sarcastic digs. We hadn't spoken in years until she randomly replied to one of my Instagram stories showing me painting the walls of the restaurant. She asked what I was doing. I told her. That was the first blow. She replied, "Wait, you're opening a restaurant?" When I confirmed it, she sent back a laughing emoji. Then, wow, ambitious. I mean, restaurants go under like, all the time. But good luck. I brushed it off at the time. Told myself maybe she was just being sarcastic, maybe she didn't mean anything by it. But then, she posted a TikTok. A video of me from years ago, back when I had a YouTube channel doing little cooking tutorials from my old kitchen. I'd forgotten she even had a copy of that footage. She edited it with a voiceover mocking me for thinking making soup at 2 a.m. with no followers somehow meant she could open a bistro. It went semi-viral. People laughed in the comments. I got a few DMs from strangers asking if I was the soup girl. I don't even know how many people saw it, maybe thousands, maybe more. I was crushed. I didn't confront her. I just blocked her, quietly. And focused on getting ready for the grand opening. I poured my heart into it. Refinished the counters by hand. Painted the walls myself. I sourced everything locally, came up with a small but thoughtful menu. It wasn't fancy, no truffle oil, no deconstructed crap. Just real food. My food. Then came the opening night. It rained. Of course it did. Half the people who RSVP'd canceled last minute. My prep cook called out sick. The POS system I rented glitched. Two customers waited over 30 minutes for their food, then left before it hit the table. I overcooked the chicken on the very first order. At the end of the night, I had 6 empty tables, a fridge full of untouched ingredients, and one review on Yelp calling the ambience like a high school cafeteria. I went home and sat on the floor of my apartment and cried until the sun came up. I was this close to giving up. I started drafting emails to people I used to work for, asking if they needed a line cook. I even thought about selling the space before I got in over my head. Then, a few days later, it happened. It was a slow lunch shift. I was there alone. Didn't even have music on. The fryer was off. I was reading a second-hand cookbook at the counter when I heard the door open. And in walked Charles Banner. If you don't know who he is, he's a celebrity chef. He's done Michelin-star restaurants, hosted food documentaries, been on every cooking competition show you can name. I used to binge-watch his series Banner Eats America every night after work. At first, I thought it was someone who looked like him. But then he pulled down his hood and smiled. Just, casually, like he wasn't this culinary giant sitting in my sad little restaurant. "You open?" he asked. I nodded. Too shocked to speak. He ordered the trout special. I cooked it myself, barely breathing the whole time. I added a beet salad I'd made that morning and plated it like I was feeding royalty. He ate in silence. Didn't pull out his phone. Didn't take a photo. Then he walked to the counter, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "That was one of the best meals I've had in a very long time." Then he left. I thought maybe he was just being kind. But 2 hours later, he posted a photo of my trout on his Instagram. Said the place was a gem in the heart of Cincinnati and told people to check it out. The post blew up. Within 48 hours, I had a line out the door. Food bloggers came. The local paper wrote a feature. One of the Yelp reviewers who slammed me before came back and edited his post. Business exploded. I hired 2 new servers. A sous chef. My cousin came in to help bake. My mom started prepping ingredients on Sundays. And then Mira messaged me. She said, "Hey. Saw the post from Banner. So happy for you. Maybe we could collab sometime? I'd love to help you market the place and bring in even more buzz." Face blowing a kiss sparkling heart. I stared at the message for a long time. This woman mocked me. Laughed at me. Tried to humiliate me publicly. And now that I finally have something going for me, she wants to be involved? I haven't replied yet. Part of me wants to send a single word, no. Another part of me, the part that's scared of burning bridges, scared of being too emotional or too reactive, wonders if I should let her back in, just a little. Maybe she was just being insecure. Maybe she was jealous. Maybe I am being petty. But then I think of myself sitting on the floor that night after the grand opening, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, and how she made that night 1,000 times worse. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. Would it be petty to cut her off for good? Or would it just be finally choosing myself? The days after Banner's post were a blur. I barely had time to think, let alone feel. We went from doing maybe 5 covers a day to packing out both lunch and dinner services. People were coming in with printouts of the Instagram photo, asking for the famous trout. One couple drove in from Louisville just to try it. I wasn't prepared for success. Not like this. I had no real staff structure. My prep stations were a mess. I was still storing some dry goods in my coat closet because we didn't have enough shelving. For the first few weeks, I was working 16-hour days, barely sleeping, always anxious something would go wrong. But it didn't. Not like before. Something had shifted. And slowly, I started to believe that maybe I did deserve this. Customers started becoming regulars. The guy who used to order a black coffee and a scone every morning started asking about the ingredients, chatting with me at the register like we were old friends. A woman who'd been a chef herself in the 80s left a handwritten note after every visit, with a tip and a recipe suggestion folded inside. A young couple got engaged over dinner at my place. It was becoming what I always dreamed it would be. Not just a restaurant, but a place people connected through. A place that felt like home. But in the background of all that good, there was Mira. She didn't just send that one message. She kept trying. First it was casual, saw your new menu, looks amazing smiling face with heart eyes, or OMG you're famous now. Then it got more persistent. She asked if she could stop by to shoot some content for her channel. Said she wanted to highlight small business stories. She even tagged my restaurant in a story and captioned it, "So proud of my girl Lena Fire from high school besties to boss babes 2 hearts." I hadn't seen or heard from her in nearly 5 years. She didn't check in when I was broke, when I was scrubbing grease traps at midnight just to stay afloat, when I lost my apartment briefly because I loaned too much to the restaurant. And now she was proud? I didn't repost her tag. I didn't like the photo. Then she called me. The first ring, I ignored. Second time, I picked up without thinking. I was elbow deep in prep for the evening rush and had flour on my face. "Hey, stranger," she chirped. I stood there, holding my phone, suddenly aware of how far apart we drifted. "What's up?" I said, keeping my tone neutral. "I just wanted to say I'm so happy for you. Seriously. You're killing it. I mean, I always knew you'd be successful." I didn't say anything. She rushed to fill the silence. "Anyway, I'm in town next week. I'd love to swing by, maybe bring a few influencer friends? We could do a little tasting, get some pics, drum up even more buzz." I swallowed hard. My instinct was to scream. But instead, I said, "I'm really busy. We're fully booked." "Oh, come on," she laughed. "For me? Don't be like that. I can help you take this to the next level. You've got the food, let me help you brand it." That line hit something in me. Like I hadn't already been branding it with every 4 a.m. wake up, every missed birthday, every dollar I refused to spend on myself just to keep the lights on. I told her I had to go and hung up. She texted me twice more that week. I didn't answer. But it shook me. Because a part of me, the people-pleasing, approval-seeking version of me that Mira had always been able to manipulate, wondered if maybe I was making a mistake. Maybe I was letting bitterness block opportunity. That's what she always used to say when I set boundaries. That I was burning bridges for no reason. But I kept going. I focused on the work. On the people who actually showed up for me. On the customers who kept me afloat during the early days when things were hard. On my cousin, who came in at 5 a.m. to bake bread without asking for a paycheck. On my mom, who rolled up her sleeves and chopped onions with a smile, even after a 12-hour shift at the clinic. They believed in me. Before anyone else did. Mira had her chance. And she chose mockery. She didn't believe in me, not when it mattered. Not when I needed it. It wasn't just about the TikTok. It was about the message behind it. She saw me working towards something that didn't fit into her polished little world, and instead of cheering me on, she made a joke out of it. For clout. I started thinking about all the ways people justify cruelty. How easy it is to laugh at someone when they're still struggling. How rare it is for someone to clap for you before the world does. I thought about reaching out to her. Saying what I really felt. Letting it all out. But I didn't. I poured it into the food. Into the menu that changed weekly, based on what was fresh from the market. Into the playlists I made at night when I couldn't sleep. Into the tiny personal touches, handwritten notes with takeout bags, postcards from the neighborhood tucked into the check holders, lavender sachets my mom helped me make for the bathrooms. I put love into everything I did. Because love built that restaurant. Not spite. Not revenge. Not even ambition, really. Just love. For food. For people. For the dream I had when I was a broke 16-year-old girl making soup in a shared kitchen while everyone else was out partying. But still, Mira lingered in the back of my mind. She hasn't stopped messaging. And now she's posted another video. This one's different. It's her, crying into the camera, saying how hard it is to see someone you grew up with turn cold, how people change when they get a little fame, how she never meant any harm and just wants to be friends again. And now, the comments are coming in. Some people are defending her, saying maybe I'm being too harsh, that I should forgive, that life's too short to hold grudges. And here I am, reading those comments, feeling that familiar guilt bubbling up, wondering, am I punishing her? Or protecting myself? Because the truth is, I don't want to become someone bitter and guarded. I don't want to shut everyone out. I want to be someone who believes people can grow, can change, can learn. But I also don't want to be that girl crying on the kitchen floor ever again. I didn't respond to the video. I didn't comment. Didn't text. Didn't react at all. But that didn't stop the ripple. People, mutuals, acquaintances from high school, old coworkers, started messaging me. Some subtle, others not. Hey, saw Myra's post. Rough situation. Hope you two work it out. I remember you two were like sisters in school, maybe this is just a misunderstanding? She's clearly hurting. You should talk. The assumption that it was on me to fix it, to be the bigger person, the peacemaker, the forgiver, it grated at me more than I expected. Why was the responsibility always handed to the one who was hurt, not the one who caused it? But I didn't lash out. I kept running my business. I kept showing up every day, sleeves rolled up, checking inventory, tasting sauces, balancing the books, wiping down tables even when my back screamed from exhaustion. And every once in a while, the doubt crept back in. Not about my food. Or the restaurant. That part, I had finally started to trust. But about whether I was really over it. Over her. Because despite the messages, despite the videos, despite the guilt, I missed her. I missed the version of us that laughed until we cried over takeout containers in my mom's basement. The way we used to send each other voice memos ranting about life. The long late-night talks that made everything feel less heavy. And then I'd remember the video. Her voice, mocking me. The way she posted it for laughs. For likes. She didn't just doubt me, she ridiculed me. And she did it publicly. Loudly. There's a difference between being skeptical and being cruel. She chose cruel. And yet, I could still hear that voice, not hers, mine, asking, but what if you're wrong? What if she has changed? I wrestled with that voice daily. It showed up during the lulls between lunch and dinner. In the quiet moments when I was alone in the walk-in, cooling down. When I was closing up and wiping down counters by moonlight, long after the last customer had left. Then, about 2 months after the first post blew up, Mira came in. No warning. No text. No DM. She just walked through the door. It was a Thursday afternoon. Light foot traffic. I was behind the counter, talking with one of my newer servers about weekend reservations. I saw the door open and looked up. She looked the same, mostly. A little more styled, maybe. Hair blonder. Expensive-looking bag. But her smile was the same. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure if she'd be kicked out. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. Not at first. She waited until I walked past to deliver an order to a table. Then she stood and said softly, I didn't come to fight. I didn't look at her. Just nodded slightly, set the plate down for the customer, and returned to the counter. I saw you in your element just now, she added, voice low. You really did it. I stayed silent. She took a deep breath. I messed up. I thought, if I laughed at your dream before it got big, maybe I wouldn't feel so bad about mine going nowhere. I blinked. That was the first real thing she'd said in years. She went on, nervously fidgeting with her keys. I thought if I could get some laughs, people would remember me. I didn't think it would hurt you like that. But I guess that's the difference between you and me. You build things. I just decorate the wreckage. Her voice cracked a little then. I wanted to feel cold. To feel superior. But all I felt was tired. Do you want to order something? I finally asked. She looked up at me, startled. Then smiled. Yeah. Surprise me? I nodded. It'll be on the house. No, she said quickly. Let me pay. Please. I didn't argue. I rang her up for the daily special. Roasted squash soup with cornbread and a beet and arugula salad. The soup was my grandmother's recipe. She sat at a corner table. Alone. Ate quietly. Slowly. When she was done, she came back to the counter and said, "Thank you." I said, "Take care of yourself, Mira." She paused, looked like she wanted to say more. But then just nodded, turned, and left. That was 3 weeks ago. She hasn't messaged since. No new posts. No new apologies. Just silence. And yet here I am, still turning it over in my head. Was that the closure I needed? Or was that just another act? Can someone who laughed at your lowest moment ever really be trusted again? Or is forgiveness just about freeing yourself, even if you never let them back in? 3 weeks passed. Mira didn't post anything about her visit. No stories, no selfies with the food, no dramatic breakdowns or fake vulnerability. At first, I was relieved. Then curious. Then, almost disappointed. I thought maybe she'd use the moment. Frame herself as changed. Redeemed. Some people do that, turn apologies into content. But she didn't. It was almost worse, the silence. Because it left everything hanging. No apology tour. No closure. Just that quiet moment in the restaurant. Her voice, barely above a whisper, saying, "You really did it." And maybe that was enough. Maybe that had to be enough. I shifted my focus fully back to the restaurant. Business was steady now, not viral crazy, but sustainable. I was starting to breathe again. I hired a pastry chef. We expanded our dinner hours. I finally gave myself a 2-day weekend once a month. Small victories, but big ones for me. And then, one morning, something odd happened. A local business journal ran a piece titled "The PR World's Worst Kept Secret, When Influencing Turns to Impersonating." It was a pretty standard exposé. One of those columns where they talk about mid-tier influencers who falsify collaborations, tag brands that never paid them, or claim to work with companies that had no idea who they were. Buried halfway down the article was a familiar name. Myra's. Turns out she'd been tagging restaurants she'd never actually visited, using stock photos to fake food reviews, and inflating her follower count with bots. A former client had apparently sued her for breach of contract and misrepresentation. The article wasn't just scathing, it was viral. Comments everywhere. Her social media pages went dark within 48 hours. I didn't feel joy. Not at first. I felt hollow. This wasn't how I pictured my revenge. Not that I ever plotted one, really. I'd imagined confronting her, maybe. Making her admit she was wrong. I'd pictured a powerful scene, me standing tall, her finally recognizing the damage she did. But this? Watching her fall apart in front of the entire internet? It felt cold. Then again, so was the silence she left me in after posting that first video. I didn't gloat. Didn't join in the pile-on. But a few days after the article dropped, I posted something simple to my restaurant's page. No names. No shade. Just a photo of the kitchen crew smiling, arms around each other, faces flushed from a busy night. The caption read, "We built this place from scratch." No gimmicks. No PR team. Just long hours, real stories, and a whole lot of love. The best revenge is always living well. Thank you to everyone who believed in us when no one else did. That post got more engagement than anything since Banner's shout-out. Regulars commented with their favorite dishes. Some old friends from culinary school wrote things like "always knew you'd make it." One of my old managers even sent a bouquet of flowers to the restaurant with a handwritten note, "You're the real deal. Never forget that." And that's when it hit me. This was the revenge. Not her downfall. Not her losing followers. But me, still standing. Still cooking. Still here. Mira had spent years curating a version of success. Pretty pictures. Hashtags. Carefully filtered girlboss quotes. She wanted to be seen as someone who had it all together. Who could make or break you with a post. And for a while, maybe she could. But I didn't have to pretend. I earned it. Every splatter of sauce on my apron. Every burn on my hand. Every late-night inventory run. Every morning spent scrubbing the grill before sunrise. I earned my name being known, not because I chased it, but because I stayed the course when no one else clapped. And now? I didn't need an apology. I didn't need a scene. The world had already shown me who she was, and who I'd become. One night, just before closing, I sat outside on the small bench near the front door of the restaurant. It was quiet. Cool breeze. Warm yellow lights glowing through the window. A woman walking her dog passed by and paused. "You're Lena, right?" she asked. I nodded, smiling. "I just wanted to say, your restaurant reminds me of my grandma's kitchen. It's got soul. You don't find that in places anymore." She kept walking, dog wagging its tail behind her. And I just sat there for a moment, letting her words settle. Soul. That's what Myra's brand never had. That's what no one could fake. That's what made it mine.